Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are really thrilled to get this webinar started in a couple minutes. I'm just letting folks out of the waiting room. Just so you all know, this webinar is being recorded and we will send out the recording to everyone after the call, and I'll be sure to share Hope's contact information too. First of all, Hope, thank you so much for doing this presentation for us. I'm really thrilled to have you join us and to share this information with families. I reached out to Hope after she was connected to me by Lauren Gillespie, who's a transition coordinator at Nemours, after I was hearing from many families that guardianship was kind of the only option for them and their loved one with Down syndrome. And that is definitely not the case. And Hope is really a gift to the community through a grant with Disability Rights Delaware that she's working with Community Legal Aid Society. And this grant enables her to work directly with families to help them explore alternatives to guardianship. And several of our families have already worked with her and really had a tremendous experience in working with her. And I'm just so thrilled that she can share this information with all of you. But I'm going to let Hope take it away. But again, thank you all for being on tonight. Everybody is muted, but feel free to ask questions at the end of the webinar, or you can put them in the chat as you're thinking of them. I'll help Hope at the end of the webinar go through the questions in the chat. But we're so excited to have everybody here, and thank you again for helping me coordinate this, Hope, and for everybody for being on and really hearing this valuable information from her. So, Hope, I'll turn it over to you.
Hold on a second. Let me get Valerie because she's on the wrong one. Hold on. Okay.
Okay. So, Valerie, for all of you, she is the attorney that works with Hope on this process. She's going to be on the call with us as well, and she's just trying to get on the Zoom. So, we'll give her a second. And as I said, this is being recorded for those of you that weren't on yet. Feel free to put your questions within the chat, and we'll make sure to disperse the information to everyone that's registered. And you're already registered if you're in this Zoom automatically as well.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, you're fine. When I see her name pop in, Hope, I'll make her a co-host as well.
Alrighty. Hold on a minute.
And I'll just preface by saying I believe that a lot of our families are told that guardianship is necessary by their child's school. So we think that's where the misinformation is potentially coming from, but that's not the case. So we're really, like I said, excited to share some really um, beneficial alternatives that we have services to help you guys navigate through this program with CLASI.
Oh, well, I am very sorry that that's the information that people are getting, um, because it is incorrect. But I've just sent an email to her. Now I'm going to, if y'all wouldn't mind, and you're not in your jammies or anything, can you come on camera too so I can see who I'm speaking with? Um, then I don't feel like I'm just like talking to the computer, which I do because the computer and I are not friends all the time. We today my computer updated overnight, and when I got on this morning, it had icons on that I didn't know where they came from, and it had oh, that's okay if you can't if your camera's not working. So it had icons on that I didn't know what they were. I was missing some of my graphics and I was missing some of my presentations. And this one is one that was missing. Hi, Valerie.
Hi,
Okay,
sorry everybody.
that's
Um,
okay, Valerie. Thank you for being on. I'm going to make you a co-host, Valerie, in case you need to do anything.
Thank you.
so anyway, I spent my whole day recreating my presentation. So, like I said, computers are not always my friend, but I try. All right. So, I'm glad that, Lauren, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Everybody else are new faces to me, and to me that means it's new friends. If there's anything I can do, reach out to me. If I don't have answers for you, I will get them. All right, so here we go, or not, because it doesn't want me on it. Here we go,
No.
on a
Oh,
tiny
shit.
screen. All
I
right.
can't even get.
Let me.
Okay.
All right. So, are we ready? Let's see if it will progress like it's supposed to because it is not. Let's try it again. Did it switch?
Yes.
Yes, you're.
All right. So, before I get started, I have to read you this disclaimer. This presentation provides general information about alternatives to guardianship, and it's not intended to be um, legal advice. Everyone's situation is different, and it's best to consult with an attorney to develop a plan or an advocate that's going to meet your special person's individual needs. Disability Rights Delaware does not assist in establishing guardianships, but we do help with other options. My name is Hope Vella. I am the decision-making advocate for a project that DDDS decided to fund a pilot program a year ago. It's going on 2 years ago, and I think March, and it has taken off, and we're successful, and I'm happy. My background is I worked for 17 years in a large school district in Virginia in special education with just about every population that we can think of. I'm a CODA, a child of a deaf adult, and disability's been in my life all my life. I fought lupus throughout my childhood. I was in my late 20s late 30s when they put it into remission. I am 62 now, so that's several years without lupus, thank goodness. Um, I have also been a in-home behavior technician after I left the school system, and then I moved up here. And 6 months after I moved to Delaware, both of my legs got crushed, and so I acquired a new disability. Um, I went to college. My background is not law. I've been an advocate for since my son was 12. He's 39 now. Um, and I I think that disability is a natural occurring event that happens in life. We all, if we live long enough, there's going to be a time that we need others to help us do something. Um, and so now I'm going to introduce you to my work daughter, who is Valerie, and she is the attorney that's assigned to our project. And I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Thanks, Hope. I'm Valerie Snow. I'm a staff attorney at Disability Rights Delaware, which is part of CLASI, Community Legal Aid Society. Um, I have been with CLASI since November 2024. Before that, I was an attorney for 4 years in Philadelphia doing actually defending older adults who are facing guardianship proceedings. Oftentimes the older adults would be in nursing homes or hospitals and facing a determination of quote unquote incapacity. And my job was to represent them, their wishes, what they wanted. And, sometimes guardianship was necessary, but also a lot of times I'm proud that we implemented alternatives to guardianship, which Hope is going to talk about today. So, this is a great project for me to be working on, and I'm happy to be at Disability Rights Delaware. So I am an attorney, and I'm licensed in Pennsylvania and Delaware. And who knows, maybe we will see some of you in the future in our project.
Thanks, Valerie. All right, so our agenda for tonight, it's going to be jam-packed. So I'm going to be talking pretty fast because Valerie's got a hard stop at 8. I will be available if Lauren thinks it's appropriate after Valerie gets off. But Valerie's here to answer the questions that I can't because I'm not an attorney. I'm an advocate. Um, I'm going to give you a classy overview because learned that a lot of people don't know what even that classy exists or what we do. I'll give you an overview of our unit, which is Disability Rights Delaware, and then I'll let you know the different options that Delaware offers, and then I'll talk about how we can work together. So who we are a private nonprofit um, law firm that advocates for equal justice for everyone. We provide free legal services, helping clients ensure that their basic needs are met so they can live self-sufficient lives with dignity. We serve Delawareans who have disabilities, who are 60 years and older, individuals with low income, survivors of domestic violence, immigrant victims of crime, abuse, and neglect, victims of housing discrimination, and now we've started helping families that have become involved with the justice system. So CLASI has several different units. The medical legal partnership, that's how Lauren, that's how Lauren and Lauren got together. Lauren Gillespie connected me to y'all. Um, yeah, the Virginia just came out. The y'all. We have the medical legal partnership. We have domestic violence. We represent people that are having disputes with immigration, housing. Um, we represent our elder population, people that are having difficulty with their public benefits. And then our unit, Disability Rights Delaware, and then the family representation that I was telling you about. Disability Rights Delaware, the services that we provide are individual and systemic advocacy, general information, community education, like tonight. We also do a bi-monthly uh, workshop for families that's virtual. So if someone can't be at this one, February 9th, we do another one that's just the general one. This one's going to be more about people that have Down syndrome, but we have a general one. It's twice on February 9th at noon and then also at 7 p.m. And I will add, Lauren, if it's okay, I'll add you to my mailing list for the reminders.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. We help with self-advocacy. We do educational advocacy, which I am also finding that people didn't know we existed. And the sad part about that, and that was my background as far as advocacy before I came to CLASI, is that you don't get the representation because you can't afford it, and you don't know that our services are free. And we do referral services. So if we go through our process and it's determined that we cannot do um, the less restrictive alternatives to guardianship, we can give a referral to attorneys that may be able to assist you with that. All right. So before I get into the larger legal documents. I have some of you that have young people that are still in school. How many of you have young people that are doing the after 18 programs? All right. So are you familiar and are you familiar with the voluntary grant of authority for school now that your child is over 18? All right, so the Department of Education allows your child to designate you as the surrogate to speak for them in the educational setting. It's supposed to be on the Department of Education website. This one doesn't, I don't even need to be involved with this. If you're having difficulty finding it on the website, have Lauren shoot me an email and I can send it. Or Lauren, would you like me to just send that to you um, proactively?
Yes, we'll send it in a follow-up.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to get to the things that I do. And it does not want to. There we go. All right. So I'm going to tell you that what we do, we move from the most empowering to the most restrictive. Most so educational surrogacy is the most empowering because the only thing that they're asking for is for you to help them in the educational setting. They can speak for themselves, but if not, um, you as their parent have the right to advocate for them. All right, the alternatives to guardianship, advanced care planning for the DDS service recipient project. If you notice the two symbols, we have one, it's the person that's making the one that I'm pointing. Can you see my pointer?
Yes.
Okay. This would be somebody more of a guardian right here. This is the person that's in front of the person with the disability. This is the supporter and the agent. And we're going to start with trying to find the supporter and the agent. I need to, before I get going, I need to say to people that I am not someone that believes that guardianship is a bad thing. I believe that there are times that guardianship is the only option, and I do not want to create or give the impression that I'm creating any type of division within our disabilities community. We have enough fighting to do outside of our community. We need to respect that every family makes their own decision, and they're the only ones that are going to reap the rewards or suffer the consequences of the decisions that are made. So don't expect everyone to make the same decision that you make. Least to most restrictive decision making alternatives. So the least restrictive, of course, is autonomy, where the person makes all their decisions on their own. The next is the supported decision-making agreement. Then we have the shared decision making, advanced planning for if somebody loses the capacity to make their own decisions. That would be the durable power of attorney, the Advance Health Care Directive, the Mental Health Care Advanced Directive, and then we go to the most restrictive that would be default surrogacy and guardianship. So with least restrictive, all decision making belongs to the person with the disability with or without support. So we talked about autonomy. All the decision making power remains with the adult with the I'm going to use ID or IDD for intellectual disability or intellectual and developmental disability. I just wanted to say that so if someone's not sure, you know ahead of time. The adult is able to make decisions and express their wishes independently. They can ask for input or help from others when they're unsure of their decision. And that's what we all do. Whether it's asking about an outfit, asking where we should go, how to get somewhere, how to fix something, who you would request, everybody needs help sometimes. Most empowering as far as decision-making alternatives would be the supported decision-making agreement, that all decision-making power still remains with the adult with the IDD. They choose another adult or adults to act as their supporter. And the supporter's responsibility is to collect the information for a decision that their person has to make, explain it to them in a way that they can understand, help them weigh the risk and the benefits, and then the final decision remains with the person with the disability. They can choose which areas of life that they feel that they need that support. Now we're moving into the shared decision making. Power of attorney, Advance Health Care Directive, and Mental Health Care Directive. With the power of attorney, the person chooses an adult to act as their agent to make financial decisions for them. This can be effective right away, or it can be only when a person with the IDD loses capacity. Advanced Healthcare Directive, the person with the IDD chooses an adult to act as their agent. And then you notice the term changes once you go into power of attorney and advanced healthcare directive. It's their agent to make medical and or end of life decisions for them when they do not have the capacity to make those decisions for themselves. And it records their preferences and their wishes. Mental health care advance directive is new. It just came in at the end of September. Um, and a person with a mental health disability is able to choose an adult to make decisions for them when they're in crisis, but they're choosing their adult before they're in crisis. Um, and then the most restricted, I want to go back to that one. And with this, uh, the mental health care advance directive, they can choose treatments that they do or do not want. They can choose facilities that they want to be treated in. They can choose medications that they feel um, that they do or don't want to be used on them. Most restrictive, default surrogacy, and this is something that I'm also finding that people don't know it is in existence in Delaware. As a parent, you would automatically, if you don't have any documents in place, and the reason that I want to stress about this is if you have no documents in place and your child is not married, you are automatically next on the list of hierarchy of who can make decisions for your child. I'm finding that parents don't know that this exists, and neither do a lot of the doctors. If you want more information on this, I think this is another thing that I need to write down, Lauren, to send to you.
Okay,
Information.
that sounds good.
Okay.
For default surrogacy, yeah, I haven't heard of that myself.
Yes, and it is. Yes, if there's an emergency and something happens to your child and your child cannot communicate, or give permission for a treatment or a medication or anything, you are automatically the people. But we have a like a template if your doctor is unfamiliar with it. I know Dr. Bike is at the Nemours in up in Wilmington, but I don't know about the doctors at the other facilities. And guardianship is the most extreme option. It removes the rights of a person with a disability and gives it to the person that's designated as their guardian. It requires a court process, which can be time consuming and costly, and it must be court ordered by a judge in the Court of Chancery. So this is why we're here. We do something that is different than any law office in the country. The neat thing about me getting hurt and me going back to school um, was that I had to intern at CLASI, and I was interning doing disability voting rights. And I applied for two jobs with CLASI and I didn't get them. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna, I don't know, the people that made their predictions about my participation in society after I got hurt were right. And what it turned out when they called me, I thought they were calling me to tell me what I could do better in my interviews because I'd been out of work for 6 years. And they were like, "Well, no, we hired somebody else, but we had this project in mind and we thought you'd be perfect." And what the neat thing is it allowed me to take what I learned all those years working in the school district and bring it into a law office. It allowed me to take what I'd learned. My bachelor's is in social work. My master's is in human service administration. And it allowed me to take um, strategies and interventions that I'd learned in both settings and bring them into this program. So the first thing we do is we start out with our agreements. We assume that every person has the capacity to make decisions unless that assumption is proven wrong. We believe that adults with disabilities have the right to the dignity of taking risk, making mistakes, correcting those mistakes, and learning from those mistakes just like other adults. We believe that the restrictions on decision-making power of an adult should be based on individual assessments of the capacity of the person for the specific decisions that need to be made, and not solely based on the presence of an intellectual, developmental, psychiatric, or other disability. So, one of the first things we do is we promote self determination by using plain language, which is communication that's clear and easy to understand for its intended audience, regardless of the medium that's used to deliver it. We use picture communications, and I don't know any of you that have been in a law office that have ever seen PECs come out. Did any of you know that PECs were created? The system was created here in Delaware. I didn't either. When decided I wanted to use picture systems, I asked my supervisor, and she told me I could look to see if there were any companies that had PECs that we could use. And I got to sit under the creators of the whole system in a 6 hour training. And when it started out, they allowed us to use their picture dictionary. For almost the first year. Now I make my own my own packs.
Hope,
Um,
sorry, can I just interject real quick?
yes, ma'am.
I wanted to, when I had the phone call with you, it was very eye-opening to me, kind of so Hope's team actually will work with your individual with Down syndrome directly to help them navigate what support or pathway is best for them. So through, Hope, correct me if I'm wrong. If they have a current community navigator, it would be best if they said to the community navigator, I would like to be directed to CLASI and Hope's project. She will then get assigned to your case and come, and you will either come into her office, or she's even gone into people's homes and worked with your loved one with Down syndrome directly to help them pick which pathway would be best for their specific needs. So this plain language and picture communication that she's referring to, Hope has this really excellent process where she helps the individual with Down syndrome themselves understand what the different choices are and how it would impact them directly. And in the DSA family that has already worked with her, their experience with her has really just been awesome, that she's been able to explain to the individual with Down syndrome himself the different routes that he can go, how that would involve his parents or not, and explain to him the different alternatives. So, I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that when Hope's referring to this communication devices, this is her working directly with the individual with the disability and helping them understand the different alternatives to guardianship that may work best for them. And from what I've heard in the process, it really is she's working hand in hand with you to understand the decision and make sure that it's appropriate to them. We had a question in the chat if it's limited to Down syndrome specifically. It's not. So anyone with a community navigator already through DDDS is eligible, correct? Hope, is that the
Anybody that receives any type of services from DDDS is
okay.
eligible to participate in this project.
And they need to be like 17 and a half or older, correct? You can start as soon as 17 and a half.
At 17 and a half, is the earliest that I can start.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
yes.
But
Um,
yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
No, is that helpful for folks to kind of understand as Hope is talking about this process? Okay, I'm seeing head shakes, but 17 and a half is just the minimum, obviously. So if you have an
Yes.
older adult, that is fine, but you can start as early as 17 and a half. But I hear from a lot of families as soon as like 16, guardianship is mentioned in transition meetings with schools. So just it's great that I see some families of younger kids on this call because now you will be a wealth of information going into those meetings and already be informed about the options that you have. So
Y
it's great that people are being proactive.
yes. Thank you. So we also will work with the communication devices. Better if your child uses a communication device that you bring it with you to the meetings. All right, so something I do differently is a lot of times in most settings, once a child is 18, um, they kind of push the parent out of the picture or the caregiver. And for me, I think that the parent caregiver is my best resource ever. I respect the fact that you know your young person better than anybody. And so I do an hour interview. Usually takes about an hour on the phone. I do the typical demographic questions. I do some of the questions are for where we're gonna are more like uh, categories for funding. And then my questions are the questions that drive my meetings. I'm asking you if your child takes medication. I'm asking you what your child's best time of day is. I'm asking, are there things that I could do or say that would trigger a negative response from your child? I'm asking what your child likes to do. What kind of things are they interested in? I don't, if someone tells me, oh, they like music. Oh, well, what kind of music? What's their favorite group? These things inform me for when I first meet your child. The next thing I do is I research the characteristics of the young person's disability. So now I've got a a foundation from you. I'm going to use autism as an example. If I have someone that I've interviewed their parent about about their child's autism, I'm going to go back and research and brush up on what other characteristics might show up because sometimes things that that happen so frequently we don't think about if it's in our own home. So for instance, pica, which is eating non-edible things, or echolalia, which is and I've seen that also with some of my friends that have Down syndrome, which is repeating the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to look at that, and I'm already going to be looking at strategies to overcome those barriers to communication. I'm going to research the medications. Do I need to allow a longer response time to give people time to think before I ask them a question. These are the things that I'm doing before we ever come into the meeting. I put a lot of emphasis on building relationships with my clients. And you notice now I've switched from your young person to my client because once they walk in the door, that's who they are. I will can think that you're the best person in the world and I can really like you, but when they walk in the office, I have so many parents tell me afterwards that I forget to speak to the parents because my attention is solely on my client. I know that from having a mother that's deaf and growing up my whole life watching people talk to me, I at 7 years old, at 8 years old, at 16 years old now, at 62 years old, talk to me instead of talking to my mom, that I'm very sensitive about making sure that my person knows that they are the superstar that day and every time they come into my office or every time they see me, actually. So the first thing I have to do is establish a form of communication. I tell them that they don't have to look at me, but I'm always going to look at them so they know that I'm paying attention to them. You don't have to, they don't have to speak to me verbally. Um, I don't use the word, you'll never hear me say somebody is nonverbal. I will say that person doesn't communicate verbally. So if they don't communicate verbally, you don't, or even if they can communicate verbally, I tell them if you don't have to answer me with your mouth, and they have a yes and no card in front of them. I ask them if they can touch yes, ask them if they can touch no, and we move on. I explain the purpose of the meeting, and this is one of my boards. Um, we're all going to come in and sit at a table, and then we're going to all talk. Everybody can take turns talking, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. And my job is to help you figure out who do you want to be your supporters or your helpers. And then we're going to do law papers that tell everybody that this is who can help make decisions for you. I identify areas of interest. Now, I've already gotten some background from mom, dad, or whoever the caregiver is, but the purpose of doing this is to see if we have interests that are shared. Mine, can you guess what my big interest is out of these six pictures? Lauren,
Yes.
is it okay if they're able to speak?
Yeah. Yep. They can just
Yeah,
unmute themselves. Yep.
yes. Okay, y'all can unmute yourselves.
Fishing.
Was
Fishing.
that
Fishing.
yes, fishing, fishing. And what's so funny about fishing? I didn't start fishing until my legs got hurt and there wasn't much that I could do. I always thought fishing was the grossest thing in the world. Now I can live bait, except worms. They're nasty, especially the blood worms. Who thought of that? Um, but I can do, I can do the what do they call it? Sand fleas and minnows, and I can do that. What my big thing is I'm afraid to take fish off the hook because I'm scared I'm going to pull their lips off. And I don't care if I'm fishing by myself. I will scream until a stranger comes and helps me get the fish off the hook. And most of the time, my clients look at me funny. Either they look at me funny or they laugh. I want to go back to the communication. Um, I am more of a comprehensive communicator. So I have had clients that are medically involved that have a trach in their throat. They've got CP. They can't touch the cards for me. And in that case, it was I had someone stand on one side of the bed with the card and someone stand on the other side of the bed with the card, and they just turned their head, yes or no. Um, I Everything is communication. When I asked this young man, because I found out he was going to go see Lilo and Stitch, and I said, "Can I? Oh, that's awesome. Can I go with you?" And the man recoiled away from me. That's communication. I took it as a heck no. If I have a client that comes in and they don't have someone with them, we'll construct a circle of support, because a lot of times when you are in the middle of something, it's hard for you to look deeper. Um, I have them look at, is there a friend from the store? Is there a friend from your community center? Is there a friend from your wherever you worship? And right now, I'm down to the last one that I'm trying to find a supporter for. Um, Representation matters. So I have different icons that they can pick, especially for those that don't communicate verbally, to represent who they want, whether it's their mom, their dad, for to be their supporters. So now I've already figured out some of their interests. Now I want to figure out what their strengths are. And there's a method to my madness. I'm informally assessing them the whole time I'm talking to them instead of just saying do this, do that, do this like they're expected to perform. Um, so now I want to identify their strengths. So I will go through different cards with different activities and ask, can you do this? Well, if you can't do this, who helps you? So these are pretty benign. Can you talk on the phone by yourself? Can you listen to music? Can you read by yourself? Can you play video games? And then I have other ones that are, can you count your money by yourself? Can you go shopping? Can you drive? Uh, and I'm putting them into separate piles, and it's pretty neat when my young people figure out what I'm doing with my piles. And um, my clients drive the meeting. If they want to take the card and put it on the stack themselves, they're welcome to, and they don't even have to answer me verbally with verbally. They can just put the card on the right stack. Um, who helps you when you go to the doctor? Who tells your doctors what to do? Who tells the doctors what you want? Do you want them to do you want them to help you when you go to the doctor the next time? Do you want them to help you with their money, with your money? And then the kind of extra thing that I do is when I'm talking about finances, especially, I say, can your mom um, go to your bank and take out money to get you clothes? And then and they'll say yes. And then I say, can I go to the bank and take your money out? And a lot of times, the first time they say yes, and I say no. Um, one of my clients told me that um I had taught him when I first met him, and when we were getting ready to sign the documents, I asked him, you know, can I go on the computer and look at your money in the bank? And he says, no, Miss Hope. And I said, well, why not? And he says, because you're strange. Well, I taught him you're a stranger, but I took that you're strange. So they're domains of living, and these are the areas that we're going to do documents for their finances and employment, for their social life, and for their medical. They're allowed to say where they want a supporter or an agent and who they want that person to be. Now, when I get into the formal assessment, I, I have to be sure that my client is aware of time and space. And that means of what's going on around them. Um, so I know I know when my mom was doing her power of attorney, um, they asked her, "What's the date?" And if she hadn't been able to tell them what the date was, they would have thought that she didn't have capacity. I could show, I could say, put three cards in front of one of my clients and say, is it January, May, or June? If they can touch the right card, hand me the right card, or tell me the right month, they've answered correctly. If they're not sure of the month, I can say, is it is it is it uh December, October, or November? And no, this would be individual cards, not a board that so visually would be visually confusing. And all they'd have to do is, you know, is pick the right card. They're seeing that Christmas tree and they know what Christmas is. They might not know the actual month, but they know what happened in that month. I have to ask them who the president is. Most parents tell me that their young person would not know who the president is. And so then my next question is, do you have a television? And they say yes. And I said, then your young person has seen the president's face on TV. And I'm trying to remember if the Valerie, has there ever been a client that hasn't, once they're engaged, picked the president out that you've seen?
I can't remember. If so, I think it's only been like one or two, but they were able to, do the rest of the capacity questions and yeah.
Yes. So the way I would present it to them is, who is the president? And then I would put out, is it Marco Rubio? Is it Mitch McConnell? Or is it Donald Trump? And either they're going to tell me verbally, they're going to touch the picture, or they will hand me the picture. And I have to keep comments limited on that with the young people because they'll tell me exactly what they think. Um, I don't People that don't have intellectual disabilities have a hard time understanding legal terms. There were terms that I had to look up to to be able to put it into the right words for my clients. Words like commodity. Anybody know what a commodity is? This is a safe place. What do you think it is?
Something of value.
It's something of value. Good. That's the beginning of it. Someone else add to the story. Nobody wants to try? All right. So it's something of value. Where does it come from? That's the trick. It's something of value that comes from the ground. So, and most of them, we don't have to do anything to get them. So I will have a picture of gold bars, silver. I will have a picture of oil. I will have a picture of gold, silver, oil. And then I have a picture of grains. And then we have a discussion about how important grains are because grains can feed a whole village. Um, so everything is broken into concepts. I use very few words to explain it, and I use supplemental pictures to reinforce if there's something they don't understand. What am I conveying in this with this board?
Being sick.
Being sick. All right, that's the beginning of it. So, mom knows that you're sick, and she takes you to the hospital, and they give you medicine in the IV. And I have pictures that will draw, chunk each of these concepts. They give you medicine in an IV because you're really sick. And then when you start getting a little bit better, they put saline, which is like water, into it. And then as you get even better, you can walk around with your IV. And then the doctor comes and talks to you and he says, I'm going to send you home, but I'm going to give you these medicines, but you're all better now. You can go home. And then we have to explain when you go to the hospital and you're really sick and you can't talk for yourself. And so I have the pictures to show times where somebody is incapacitated physically. I even have a picture of drowning, and how you need help if you've drowned and you're in the hospital. Who do you want to tell the doctors what to do? And we could use a picture of mom and dad. They can point at mom and dad. They can say mom or dad. They can look at mom or dad, and, mom and dad. Um, they can give me both cards if they want them both. This is the one that I save for last all the time because it's heavy. I usually, when I notice one of my clients is nervous at the beginning of the meeting, I have a tub of fidgets like Mary Poppins and her little medical bag. Um, and but when I get here, I offer the parents fidgets too because it's really hard to think about end of life decisions for your child. It's hard, we don't it we don't it's not as difficult when we're thinking about preparing for it, the event of our own deaths to make sure our children are cared for. But to think about your child dying is really hard. So I save it for the end. And this is and in my interview with the parents, I've already talked about how they discuss death with their family. Um, has my client ever been exposed to death? Is it a religious, is it the body dies and the soul goes to heaven? Um, so I already have that background, and I use the PECs or the pictures to support whatever the parents have told me. I explained to them that sometimes we get so sick that our doctors can't make us better. People who love us come to see us, and then our brain or our hearts or our lungs stop working. And our family is sad because we die. We have a funeral, people say bye, people carry our bodies in caskets, and then our caskets get buried into the ground. Then I have to uh, um, then I have to talk to them about organ donation. Sometimes, after our brain dies, doctors can keep our hearts beating or our lungs breathing with hospital machines. If you say yes, when our brain is dead and, and we're never going to come back, the doctor can do a surgery, and you see my surgery pictures, and take your lungs out of your body and give it to someone who needs lungs to breathe better. If your heart is still strong, they can take your heart out of your body and put it into someone else's body whose heart is not strong like yours. I have pictures that show what healthy lungs look like, and what one, sometimes people have one lung that's sick. Same with the heart. pictures to show that it comes out of one body into another body, and then I have other pictures that show just somebody with an incision. Um, Needless to say, I'll stick with graphics and not graphic pictures because I think that's too much. Um, I told you that we're able to do this because of a DDS grant. We also do the community outreach and we get referrals from our partners. Um, our partner DDS is a big partner. You can also talk to your social worker like Lauren Gillespie at Nemours, or you could just call our office and say that this is what you're interested in. Let me know, let them know that your person is a DDS service recipient. How you
Hope, Hope, this is Valerie. It's 7:54 and I do have a hard stop at 8, so would you be okay if we just see if there are any urgent
Yes.
questions or okay. This is the lot. This may be, the very
Yeah,
end.
I told Lauren at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
So any technical legal questions for Valerie, and then Hope can stay on with us, she said.
Looks like we have a question in the chat. Um,
Yeah, so I'll read it. If after all evaluations and conversations you should determine that the individual is not able to make decisions for themselves, will you make a recommendation based upon that? Hope shaking her head yes.
Yes. And we will give you actually a list of attorneys that deal with guardianship.
Yes, and I'm actually helping one of our families with obtain guardianship through Delaware legal aid because CLASI actually does not do guardianship cases. So that is something that I am happy to help families navigate as well if you go through the process and that's needed. So you can reach out to me also. Has anyone heard of these alternatives before? Was this helpful to you? Thumbs up,
I'm gonna
thumbs down? Yes. Okay. Any questions for Valerie before she has to hop off?
I have a
I do have a
question.
question.
Sure,
Okay,
go ahead, Teresa.
go ahead,
Oh, I'm
Teresa.
sorry. Hey, Donna, sorry.
Hi, Teresa.
Um, so I've been to several of these seminars, so I kind of have an idea of which pathway I want to choose for my daughter. So, is it, am I able to choose that pathway without having to go through your organization?
Uh, if you're talking about guardianship, you you can choose whatever pathway you would like to choose.
Okay.
We are not saying you have to come through us. Delaware is encouraging people to try, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Okay.
I know when prior to my daughter being 18, was before these other programs are available, it was always strongly, strongly recommended guardianship. And now I know that these other
Mhm.
options, are available, which are great.
Yes, and we did a webinar with Paul O'Brien, who's an attorney that used to be on our board, and he actually brought in the woman who I'm blanking on the title, but she hears all of the guardianship cases for Delaware. And they
Hmm.
are essentially pleading with people to stop applying for guardianship, that it's been overused and incorrectly recommended. I'll put a recording of that webinar in the chat, but that was really interesting for me to hear from her directly that they really are getting stricter on what guardianship cases they will approve because they want folks to look into the alternatives. And Hope, there's another question in the chat too.
Well,
Um, yep.
I'm on that. I love meeting people. I love, um, I love, even if it isn't successful, that's something that you can say when you go to that judge is we've already tried it.
Yes.
Um,
And
I,
that's a big thing that she said too, Hope, you're right. She said, I want to hear that you've already gone through this process with Hope, for example, and we've looked at all of our options and we're confident this is the correct decision.
Alternatives.
and,
Yep.
and I
Oh,
am, I, I think Valerie's gone. I,
oh, no, I'm
I,
here, Hope.
okay. I celebrate the victories. My last one, um, because we had to do it over two sessions. the first session, my client just looked at me, and sometimes he didn't look at me, and he couldn't have cared less that I was there. The second time, he um, told me to say thank you. He mumbled that at me. And he was following some of my prompts, and when he was done, he decided that he started to get up from the chair, and I said, "Well, if you're all done, tell me you're all done." And he said it loud and clear. I That kind of stuff jazzes me, and it's I'm one face that they know is looking at who they are.
Um, Before I hop off, I want to answer the two questions I see in the chat, which are great questions.
Okay.
Yes.
And also, if somebody has another question and if Hope doesn't feel that she can answer it, we will absolutely reply to you. So maybe Lauren can we'll get back to you. So if you have
Y-
something else and I'm gone, don't hesitate.
Yeah.
Um,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
so
Valerie.
let me answer this quickly. So somebody asked, we prefer supported decision making, but it would be helpful for me to be able to work with insurance companies, etc. Is power of attorney the way to go? So, supported decision making would it would allow I'm assuming a child, right? It would allow your child to say, I want my mom or my dad to be able to talk to the insurance companies for me. So that would enable you to talk to the insurance companies. I also want to point out that with the new default surrogate law in Delaware, health surrogacy existed before, but the law has been updated. And now even a default surrogate, which again is somebody who's acting to make healthcare decisions, even a default surrogate can deal with insurance companies, file claims, file appeals, which is huge because previously it was a major headache if somebody didn't have any documents and didn't have guardianship. They would be scrambling to try to, appeal a Medicaid hours reduction, but nobody was authorized to do that. Now a default surrogate can do that. But a supported decision-making agreement, as long as your child agrees that I want my mom to be able to help me
Right.
with talking to social services providers or insurance companies, then you will be able to do that. It's just
Okay.
that, yeah, so that would be,
Right
but
now,
also, oh, go
every
ahead.
time I talk to the insurance company, I have to get him on the phone
I
and
see.
say that I have permission. It's like, isn't there an
Okay, I
easier way
understand.
to
Thank
do
you.
this?
Yeah. Um, so defaults, sorry, supported decision making is legally recognized in Delaware, and they need to be accepting a supported decision making agreement. So that if that were on file, it should, be completely fine.
Okay.
If they give you any pushback, that's something where we're always telling people like come back to us and let us know because we want to educate the companies. But if you were to come to us, for instance, for making a supported decision-making agreement, we would likely see, are you also interested in doing POA and Advance Health Care Directive with us?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
I
And we
sent
kind
it to
of,
you.
I think somebody, yeah. So we would also like
I
do
sent it to you.
um, those documents, and they're kind of good to have. Like a power of attorney is good to have as a backup in case the supported decision-making agreement, like the supported decision-making agreement, is only in effect um, when your loved one has capacity to make their own decisions. If they were to be in an accident and be in the hospital in a coma or something terrible, then the supported decision making agreement would not still be valid. So that's why it's useful to have like the power of attorney also. But if they are able to enter into a supported decision making agreement, my guess is that they would also have the ability to work with us to implement a power of attorney. We really break things down. And I'm sorry to rush through this. The equivalent to CLASI in Pennsylvania, well, I guess in terms, CLASI is a big legal aid organization, and Disability Rights Delaware is part of that. But every state has a protection and advocacy agency, which is what we are. So Pennsylvania's is called Disability Rights PA or Disability Rights Pennsylvania. And the terms for the different options, so Pennsylvania, I can say this because I am licensed in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania also has these alternatives to guardianship. They may have like very slightly different names. In Pennsylvania, default surrogacy is called something like slightly different, but I mean, I can also provide these information for you. But Disability Rights PA has a great website with great resources on it, so I would definitely encourage going to the PA Disability Rights PA website and clicking on resources. But I have to go now. I have another meeting, believe it or not. But thank you, everybody.
Thank
I'll
you.
let Hope
Thank you,
close it out.
Valerie.
Bye.
And
At
I know
work,
we
Thank
have
you.
a
daughter.
family on from so Hope, we also have a mom on from Maryland. So maybe if you wouldn't mind sending me the names of the two organizations for P in Maryland, that would be very helpful. We also have another question in the chat. Are there any restrictions to organ donation for people with Down syndrome specifically? Hope, do you know of that? I do. I don't.
I No, not that I've ever heard of. If because it's unless you had some sort of bloodborne disorder,
Hmm.
I can't imagine that they would turn down a healthy lung. I've never I've never heard of them restricting anybody except people with bloodborne
Yep.
disorders. Um, yeah, and and I think I would be mad if I found out that they did this
I know.
discrimination.
Yes. Yes. We
And
are going to send out a copy of this presentation and the recording. I have some folks asking that in the chat. Um, I think this was very helpful. What other questions do folks have? Hope's able to stay on with us for a couple minutes too.
I'm gonna stop sharing. That way I can see everybody.
I,
Okay.
I just have one question. So the default surrogacy law, so that's if you don't have anything in place like a power of attorney or whatever. So the parent is then, even though the person's 18, able to make those decisions. Is that correct?
If they don't have the capacity to make those decisions, you're automatically that person.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you for
and,
clarifying.
and parent, grandparent, um, I don't, do I have, I don't have my form here to tell you what the hierarchy is. It's a list and with the changes, it now includes your domestic partner, where that didn't used to be there. It was, only your spouse and then your parent and then your then it was the adult sibling and then it
Okay.
was, now it's more inclusive.
Okay. Thank you.
I did put in the chat the language that Hope recommended for you guys to ask your community navigators to be referred to the program to, and also kind of a rough outline of what the process looks like as well. So that should be helpful also. And I also had asked Hope on the phone for a start to finish, what timeline does this usually look like? And it's within 6 months that usually the paperwork can be filed and completed once you can meet with Hope's team. So I just wanted to give that perspective too.
Yeah,
Okay.
the process is I get the referral. I contact the parent. I do the interview with the parent. I let DDS know I'm going to help the client under that grant. I schedule an appointment, and from the interview, most of my appointments are in one of the offices. I work in all three counties. I do the whole state, um, and if it's going to be best for the client for me to come to the home, I come to the home. Um, it's all about being in an environment where the client feels safe, and establishing a relationship with the client. And it's not a one shot and we're done. If we've made some sort of progress and we want to try again, I'll come back again. I want to be able to help the parent and the client get this done free because I don't have that money. And I had a client that was in his 70s that had been under guardianship, and his mother passed away and his nephew's taking care of him. And it just broke my heart because we had the documents done, and um, I called to schedule an appointment, and I hear a nurse in the background saying, "We're inserting a catheter." And I said to the nephew, "Is everything okay?" And it wasn't. I don't want anybody out there without anything in place. And if I can help, I want to help. If I can try, I want to try. And and then once I meet you, y'all are already in the system. So if you have issues with somebody discriminating against your young person, if you're having issues with the schools, if you're having issues with housing or whatever, or with benefits, you're already in the system, and we can go ahead and refer you to the right unit to help you. So you'd be stuck with me for life. Anybody else? Even about the specifics? Oh, so it 6 months is a long time. Um, there are some emergent situations where we've gotten it turned around in 2 weeks. But that means that somebody else is getting pushed back. This project has grown so much now that I'm training a paralegal to do what I do, because, like I said, no other law office does it.
Hope, I think you're going to be getting a lot of emails soon from
I
people
hope
on this
so.
call.
I hope so. It doesn't, whether you call me or not, it doesn't benefit me or hurt me. So it really isn't about me. It's about, I don't know what the word is for me. Is it a humanist? I want the best. But I want it for everybody. I want everybody to have the same chance, and whatever I can do to level that playing field, I'm gonna do it, because I grew up in a world where the world didn't do that for my mom.
Mhm.
And my legacy is, we just did a training for the attorneys in Delaware, trying to get them to understand it's their responsibility to be able to communicate with your children. It's the whole society's responsibility. Um, and I'm going to try to do, we're talking about putting something together for NDRN. I want a world where people with disabilities are not an afterthought. And and this is where I start. This is the hill that I die on. I'm I so that's it. That's me. I want to help. Let me try. If it doesn't work,
Thank you.
I won't leave
Thank
you
you so
hanging.
much, Hope, for your Thank you so much, Hope, for your time. I really appreciate it. We will send out the recording and some notes to everyone registered. And feel free to contact me if you cannot get a hold of Hope, or if your community navigator doesn't know what you're talking about, I'll connect you to Hope. And she and I will get everybody straight. But it's a great program. We're really lucky in Delaware that there's a grant for this and that folks are eligible. And please take advantage of it and spread the word. And let's try to eliminate the misconception that guardianship is necessary for everyone over 18 with Down syndrome and other disabilities, because that seems to be the connotation that I hear over and over. Even at like our holiday party, I talked to 3 families that thought they had to file for guardianship soon. So just spread the word, please. And Hope, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my time is your time. And time is a good word, because all it's going to cost any of you parents is your time. Mm. You have a wonderful evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you. And I hope I get to see some of these faces again. All right.
Thank you so
Night.
much. Hope,
Thank
if
you,
you could
Lauren.
email me
Thank
the
you,
slides,
Lauren.
that would be great, and we'll include them in the follow-up email.
Sure. I sure
Thank
will.
thank you so much.
And I'm gonna do the slides, the default surrogacy information, the educational representative, and you want to
Great.
know the names of the PA and Maryland
Yes.
counterparts to us. Okay.
Yes, you're a good multitasker.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thank
thank
you. Good
you.
night, everybody.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, Lauren.
Good night.
Bye,
You're
Thank
Donna.
welcome.
you.
Bye.